Hello again, and it's time for another project. Nothing too technical today. Basically, a friend of mine has just received a nice big Mario toy, I'll say toy, and it come in a big cardboard box, a lot bigger than this, and I thought it just seemed a waste to basically just throw that away. So I've gone round and cut it out. That was probably the hardest thing to do, was cutting it out on the cardboard. And we're going to try and save that and make another little project out of it. Now the idea is literally just going to draw around it on this 12mm plywood, just something I had lying around as such, as we say, and we're going to route out all the inner section, lower that down into the plywood, and then just pour nice clear resin over the top. And obviously before that we will cut it all out on a scroll saw, so you're making a nice little wall plaque with that image there incorporated in the middle, should I say. So for now we're literally going to draw around this. So we want to tape that down, or at least hold it down. Now for me, we're going to use the washer method. We're going to use a small washer there to go all the way around the piece with a pencil, and then we're going to use the larger washer to go round it all again, and the distance in between will be the distance from that small one, and that large one will be the size of the framework going all the way around. So we'll simply just route out the middle section and cut out the outer section, put a bit of paint on, a bit of stain, and then when we come to this one, because it is cardboard, I know with paper and printed paper you need to protect it with either clear covering, vinyl covering should I say, or sellotape. Some people have known to use Mod Podge, because this paper will soak up your resin. So we will, before we'll cover that with a plastic covering, I will show you that, and the same on the back, because that resin gets into that cardboard, it's going to soak away and look a little bit transparent. Well, definitely with normal printed images. I'm not going to chance it and just literally just pour resin on top of that. So before that, we'll draw around this, and then we'll talk about the router side of things. Right, so I've stuck that down there, just temporary, with a bit of painter's tape, nothing fantastic there. Normally I would just hold it in place, but I've noticed on the side of this cardboard there's little bits that maybe aren't as thick as they should be, and I'm going to lose my washer, so we just want to make sure that stays in place. So we'll put the smaller of the washer, the smaller of the two washers should I say, on there, and just keep that pressed all the way down, and literally just draw around the full piece, and then we'll come in again and do exactly the same with the bigger one. So we've made it all the way around with the small washer, and all the way around with that bigger washer, and hopefully we can take this off, and that will just give us the nice outline of what we need to do today. You might just see that I think I will go around with the pencil again just to make sure I can see these lines when we're routing out. So we'll darken this off with a pencil again, and then when we come back we shall look into the router bits. Right, let's route out the middle section. You can see from that I literally just went round with the pencil again, and that is our basic shape for today. Now for routing out, those who've watched my previous videos, I do like to use these CNC bits just to get us started, to do all the line work with, basically just to follow that all the way around there. This is a 15° on this one, and that is basically just see the point on the end now. Now they do have a small shaft, a Dremel size, 3.175mm. So for a 1/4 inch router or 6.35mm, you will require what they call an adapter collet, and it's basically just a sleeve that slots into there. That has now got a 1/4 inch shaft on it, or shank, and that will fit your router. If your router takes 1/2 inches, shanks, you're going to need a bigger thing. So we'll set this and basically just go all the way around the inner lines. Nothing too fantastic there. I'm going to start off about 3mm, maybe 4, and that should be enough to allow this to sink into the routed out areas. If it looks a bit too short and we're just going a bit tight with the resin over the top, once you've done the initial bit, you'll be able to skim over this with a router and lower it down just a little bit, no problem. And for routing out purposes, for always for me, I like to use these end milling bits. They come in different sizes. On this one I do have some bigger bits, and we'll see how this routes out. If they don't, if it's a slow process, excuse me, we will pop in a bigger piece. And they have the same size shaft on them, so they just fit your router, no problem. These are old ones that have those plastic barriers round. On the new ones I've ordered, they come without the barriers, but they are exactly the same piece. Like I say, I do have bigger bits if I can just find one for you. I'm literally rummaging through my drawer over there. There is bigger bits out there which would rip this off, no problem. But these were a little bit too aggressive, and if you come in that will just plywood, remember, it's going to splinter all that. So it's not always the best idea to use the bigger pieces. So for now, we'll pop that one back into the adapter collet, set it to about 3 to 4mm, and basically just do all the line work on the inside. Right, so we've got the CNC bit in our router there with the adapter collet, and I've done a sample on a bit of scrap there, or like I said previously, I'd made a little depth gauge like that, and the router sits on there. That's 3mm, that's 4mm, so it's roughly about 4mm today. So that doesn't look too bad. Once we've cleared it all out, hopefully the cardboard image will fit inside. So let's start cutting this one out. Right, so we've made it all the way around with that little CNC bit there. That was no problem cutting into that. Remember, when you do your routing, you want to be up to the line, never actually on the line. There might be certain bits there look weird, maybe not as good as, but when we come in with those end milling bits, we can nibble at that and get it somewhere near. And a little bit of sandpaper. I also like to come around with the Dremel and a little engraving bit just to tidy things up, but we'll see that in a minute. Now I'm literally going to pop on one of these end milling bits. That's the biggest one in the box, and it might seem small for all that, but you'll find once you start routing out, that will take that off in no time. Now there's no little barrier on this one, so something like that is near enough for what we want. We'll pop that in the router, and you notice I've removed a section there. We'll set it to that depth and basically remove all this inner section. Let's do that next. Right, with a slight change of plan. Now I don't know what it is with these new bits. They're just not staying in place. When you're routing out, if you find your routers getting deeper and deeper, as you can just see there, and I had the other section when I first started there, and we managed so much and then it started going deeper. That is because the router is not, the bit itself is not tight enough in the router, and no matter how much I tighten this, that is slowly, and as you spin round, you would think that would go inside the bit, but as it's spinning, it actually comes out, and that's why your cutting goes deeper and deeper. So that's not working out today for some reason. I'll go back to the old ones. It's got the plastic casing on. So we're going to pop on one of these straight flush bits. Now these are aggressive pieces. This should whip this off no problem. But because we've already gone round with our CNC bit, we've separated the two pieces. So when we come in, you will find all this will come flying out and hopefully leave that behind. We'll give it a go. They have a 1/4 inch shaft on this one, so you can put that straight in the router. We'll set it to that depth and just see if we can whip this out quickly. This simple project is turning out to be not as simple. Right, so we've made it all the way around with that straight flush bit. I will put links in the description of all my little eBay specials there. They're quite aggressive, but they certainly clean out nice and quickly. Now I'm a bit disappointed with the plywood on this occasion. The only thing with plywood projects, remember, they are made up of different layers depending on the 5.5s, 3.3s. This is 12mm, so there's 7 on here, and obviously the companies like to put the best piece on top. The inner section is a bit rough and ready, so I'm a bit disappointed with that. But I tend to find, with me personally, whenever I'm using plywood, there's always going to incorporate resin to hide all those nasties there. But on this occasion, we're going to cover it all with a cardboard cutout. So that's not going to bother us too much. But just remember that if you're hoping to paint this, that will just be a mess. So that's certainly cleared all that out. Now the next stage, what we do first, we just pop Mario in, see if he's going to fit in for us. We just simply just pop him in there, and that's fine. And looking at that, if I just press that down, there is going to be enough depth there, just so we can cover that with a thin layer of resin. So that's all right. That's so far so good. Now the next stage, I'm just going to cut this out on a scroll saw. Nothing too fantastic. We can just come in at one side, basically cut out and follow that line all the way through. Now regarding the scroll saw, for me personally, I like to use what they call spiral blades. We've all seen them before. Spirals, a T-spiral, the full length of the blade, and they will cut in any direction. So we can literally just start there and just feed that blade round like so, just by moving that wood. With your other two blades, which are pinned and pinless, pin blades come on your more cheaper saws, we'll say, but for anybody that's starting, they'll work fine. And remember, with your blades, smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. That's with spiral blades as well. With these, you could start there, but you're going to have to cut that and then turn your wood, cut and then turn your wood, and a lot of twisting and turning with the other two blades. That's your pinned ones and your pinless. If I can just find it here. I mean, look at that pinless blade, that is fantastic, and some guys can use them really good. I've tried, they're just not for me. And with my little Draper scroll saw in the corner there, I have to use these adapter clamps because it only takes pin blades, and spirals are pinless, one at the top and bottom, and you basically just hook that up exactly the same as if you were hooking a pin blade. So just bear that in mind. If you want to purchase a scroll saw, definitely get one that takes pinless blades. Right, we'll pop our Pegas number 5 spiral on the scroll saw and literally cut this out, and then we'll do a bit of tidy up, a bit of staining, and then we'll be on to the resin side of things. Right, so we've got our Pegas number 5 spiral blade nicely set up. We've got nice tension on it. You got that ping ping sound. We'll bring the little air blower down, that just blows away all the dust. And we can literally just start cutting this one out. Right, so we've made it all the way round with that Pegas number 5 spiral blade. Any blade will cut this out today. There's nothing too complicated. We have no inner cuts, it's just a simple shape. And we can see we've gone all the way around there, no problem. The only downside with those spiral blades, you will get these little fuzzies. I mean, you're being really picky there. You can just about see those, and they take seconds to go, and that's it gone. But I will go all the way around the old piece, just tidying up all these side sections here. I do like to just round off the edges slightly, and obviously we're going to remove those pencil lines, even though we are going to paint or stain the outer framework. Just be careful with your plywoods, too much sanding down and you will remove the top section, and obviously as you go further down, that's okay for us, as we are going to paint it. But just bear that in mind. If you're just going to put a clear linseed oil on this, this will start turning slightly yellow as we sand through the veneer, so be careful of that. And also, just while I do on most of my projects, it's just a little routine I've got into. I do like to use these engraving bits, just cheap eBay specials, and they're attached to the end of my flexi cable, which is attached to the end of my Dremel. And I get one with a fairly flat bottom, and I'm just going to use this to go all the way around and do a little tidy up. It's going to take a matter of seconds, and that just makes sure we've got nice straight sides and will allow us to fit in. If you just see there, I don't know if you can see that, little bits like that, look, and we can come in and just tidy that up. So we have a quick tidy up first, and then we'll decide if we're going to stain this or paint it, and then we'll be on for putting the cardboard section inside. So that's enough sanding for me. We went round with the little Dremel there just to tidy all those little sections inside, and that's definitely near enough for what we want. And we just rounded off those edges slightly, and we took all those little nodglies off the back. So that's all nicely cleaned out and ready for painting or staining. Now originally I was going to paint this outer section black, but I'm going to go for good old, you've guessed it, dark teak wood dye. And it's just going to be a simple case of doing the outer frame, and we want to get a little bit down the side walls, remember, so we want to just sneak a little bit in there. And once that's all nicely dry, I'm going to have to come in with a bit of yellow on this one, just in certain areas, because as you can see, this cardboard cutout, the background was originally yellow. Now I've left a little section there for some reason, but that's not going to bother us for this little fun project. So obviously when that goes in there like so, I still want to see a yellow background, so I'm just going to paint in these sections here and all around the edges. Obviously we've made it slightly bigger than what it is, so we're going to cover this with clear book film, as we call it. You'll see that in a minute. So we want just enough to make a lip all the way around. We've got to seal this cardboard just so that resin doesn't penetrate it and make it all soft and soggy and transparent, or whatever it wants to do. So a bit of yellow all around the edges, a couple of sections, and the stain for the framework. So we'll do the framework first. It goes on really easy. Like I say, black paint would have done just as much, and it is just a simple case of going around like so. You'll see how quickly it spreads, and I will find as I'm doing this, I'll probably end up doing the back section as well. So I'll continue with this, probably go around it twice, and it just makes a nice framework, and not forgetting to draw those side walls as well. Okay, we'll come back when this is all done and the yellow's gone on as well. Right, so we've put the dark teak stain on, and also the paint is touched yellow just in the areas that we're going to see. If I had more paint, I would have basically just painted the full piece. That just helps with any bubbles and helps seal the wood. But for me, as always, we've done the back section there. I'm going to spray varnish on this. One, I just do like a nice bit of a shine on my finished projects, and also that will help just seal that wood. Personally myself, I do not think it's going to be an issue. I will go outside with this in a minute, but for now we're just going to spray it indoors. Just get a bit of shine on those edge pieces. It just makes that wood just looks more finished in my mind, and it won't do us any harm to spray some on there as well. So I'll go outside, get those side walls done. Just 151 clear lacquer today. I have no preference, it's just whatever's kicking about at these shops at the time. Right, we'll let that dry, another quick coat, and then we're ready for popping the resin on top of our little cardboard template. Right, we sprayed enough varnish on that. It's hard to see indoors, but there's just enough there, hopefully, to seal that and just give it a little bit of its shine. With plywood, you're never going to get your sides as good as the front piece here. Right, now it's time just to pop in our little Mario there. In an ideal world, we would just drop him in there like so, and then we could just basically just pour our resin over the top. But I've got my concerns about the resin and what it will do to the top of this. Also, because it is cardboard, what it will do to the back. I mean, well, I know for a fact it's just going to soak it all up, but I've never actually poured it directly onto a painted surface. But anyways, we're going to protect that, and the best way for me is to use this transparent book covering. Be a nice size that we can cover the front. We peel it off, and we do the same again on the back of the piece. The hardest part for me is actually getting this out and trying to peel the film off there. I've actually got a side one going just in case any resin left over. I'm just making this one basically at the same time, and this one has already been covered. You might just see the plastic in there, and that is on the front and the back. That just seals that paper. And basically all we're going to do is fill that in with a resin, and that little project will be finished if we have enough resin left. So we've got to do exactly the same with this one. So I'm going to put it on the best I can, and then we can come back and we'll put a bit of glue on here, just hold it in place, and we'll set that in there, get it all nice and secure, and then we're going to the resin side of things. I'll be back in a minute and hopefully I've covered it with this. Right, you might just see from there, we've sandwiched Mario in between the two plastics here. It's basically laminating. If you had a laminator that would take this side, that would certainly be a lot easier. But I've managed to get it all the way around. Now the idea is we're just going to cut out the actual shape, just leave enough lip there so it still remains sealed inside those two pieces of clear book covering. So I'll just cut this out now, and then we'll see if it fits. It's going to be tight, that's for sure. Okay, so I've just about managed to cut all the way around that. We've got a lip going, and hopefully that is still sealed. Remember, front and the back. Personally myself, I think if I do one of these again, we might try the old Mod Podge or sealing it with some kind of PVA glue or something like that. I don't know. Just seemed quite a fiddly little project, this one for me. But we'll continue to see we've put all the work in on the back section. So now we're going to just go and see if this will just squeeze in here. Because we have the extra plastic going around the side there, the clear sealant stuff, they do get a little bit fidgety to pop in, but I'm sure with a bit of force and effort we'll get that in there like so. And hopefully that's sealed all the way up the sides there. It's in nice and tight. Do we need glue on? I'm just going to leave it. So we're going to get the resin sorted now and basically just pour clear resin over the top of this. Right, the resin today, as always for now, is Vista 1 resin. Like all your resins, they're a two-parter, and this is what they call a 1-to-1 mix by volume. So however much of A, your resin, we need the same amount of B, your hardener. Some resins you do mix by weight, some you mix by volume. Some resins are 1-to-2, 3-to-2, 3-to-1. What should I say? 1-to-2, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, and so on. So 3 parts A to 1 part B, 2 parts A, 1 part B. This is a 1-to-1, so 1 part of A to 1 part B. Don't know what I was talking about there. For me personally, we're mixing just these cheap plastic party cups. You get 100 for next to nothing. And I mark it off A, and the same for B, excuse me, with the amounts we need. And you simply just pour those into that. And then I pour the B into the A. They do recommend pouring A and B into a third container. I've never done that yet, and I've never had any issues. We've got no colours to use today. With all your resins, you want proper gloves on, please. Plenty of ventilation and a nice resin mask. Certainly don't follow me by example. So I'm just going to go up 5. You don't want to go up half a cup, because by the time you mix half a cup of the other, you could get what they call flash cure. That basically, because it's a chemical and you're mixing too much in one go, it overeats and it basically sets too fast. So I'd rather mix 2 or 3 amounts of the small stuff. Because it is clear, we can pour it on, quick another mix, pour it on again, and just keep adding on till we need. Right, I'll mix this off camera, and for mixing, good old plastic knife and forks. They're ideal, these, because they do have a little groove in the back. Should we gone into a smaller project, we can scoop it in there and tip it onto the slowly as we need it. But for this one, I think we can just pour it all over the top. Okay, we'll mix a bit of resin off camera, and then when we come back, we can just top this one up. Right, there's our first batch of resin done. So it's just going to be a simple case of pouring it on. We can see from that, I might need some more. Remember, we're just putting a couple of millimeters of resin over the top. So we can just throw that on there like so. While that finds its own way, I'll just mix up another small batch. Shouldn't need too much. We can just help that right to the edge. like so. Been a while since I've actually just done clear. Those who watched my previous videos know I normally mix acrylic paints with this. Nice colour, so be interesting to see. It's been a while since I've done a clear one like this. Right, I'll play about with this. We're not going to want a lot more, I must admit, but we'll see how far this one goes. I'm just going to mix up a little bit more. Right, so we've mixed another little batch up of resin. Quite a bit in this one, so that's going to be more than plenty. So we can just add it to that. When your resin cures, you will get a slight concave effect. So we want this basically to the level of our routed out framework. Remember to get yourself a little cocktail stick. Don't know what this giant thing's from. And we can just help that along its way. Like so. Make sure we get to those edges. All the way around. So, oh, do apologise, I forgot I was recording then. Right, I'll level all this off, and then when we come back, we'll get a lighter and just skim over this. Right, there's all our resin nicely in place. Excuse me, I'll just set this up a bit more. There we go. So it's all in place, and we haven't done too bad. I think we've got one little scoop there. And to be honest, I think we could probably squeeze that on top as well. So I'm right up to the maximum now. But like I said previously, as it cures, it will dip down slightly. Now you might not be able to see from there, but we have plenty of air bubbles in this. And get up close, you just see around there, look down the side, all around his feet. So we've got plenty of air bubbles. So the idea of the lighter is to come across like so, and that just helps move all those air bubbles. And just keep it moving. I tend to use these little small ones here like so. You can also get the serious ones like that, and that just removes those in a matter of seconds, and it'll just come through. And I'll come back again in 5 minutes, and if you just do the same thing again, and if I lift that back up, you can just see all those air bubbles are now gone. Right, we'll keep this to one side for a good 24 hours, put a nice cover over it. Any flies, dust or anything, they will find it for sure. Okay, we'll come back in 24 hours. Right, that's it. This little project is finished. Now it's less than 24 hours later. Personally, for this one, I'm going to leave it another 3 or 4 days just to make sure. You do find with your resins, the thinner the resin, the longer it takes to cure, funny enough, which is really strange. But that's just the way the chemical reaction is. And you can see from there, we've got a nice solid coating on there. It's just a little fun project that we've used up some cardboard boxes basically that would end up at landfill, and we've made a little framework to pop it in and then inlaid it all with resin. And looking at that, it looks near enough what I want. There was a slight little, what I thought was a crack here without knocking that, and I think that's actually an air bubble that's formed underneath, so that doesn't affect our little project at all. And just there while I'm flicking it round, you can just see on the hand here, maybe you can't even see it, there's a little hair there, look, that's stuck in. So remember, I did say about covering it. any ears, flies or dust, they will find it. But for a little kid's bedroom, I'm sure he's going to be more than happy with that. And while we're on the little side project we're going, that's nice and solid as well. That was just basically, this came off a birthday cake and we've covered it the same way and popped it in there. No problem. Nice little keepsake project there. Right, so it stands in at 14 inches by 11 inches across. We started routing it out with these little CNC bits. We have no problems with those. Then I tried going with the end milling bits for cleaning out. These are the new ones. They just might not be quite thick enough. There might be some kind of defect with the manufacturer. I don't know. But they kept sliding out, therefore going a bit deeper. So we threw on one of these great big straight flush bits. Back in the day when I first started my projects, all I used was that one piece for the lines and the clear out and everything. And there is better bits out there, I'm sure, but they all come with a better price. So we cleared all that out, and then we came with a Pegas number 5 spiral blade for me. Any blade will cut this out, no problem whatsoever. And then a little work with those little engraving bits, just to clear it up and tidy it up. And remember, it's on 12mm plywood, so we came in with our dark teak stain just to finish that off. I think I've got it down here. No, this is actually a light teak, but it's darker than this one. Oh, what am I doing today? And then we inlaid it with Vista resin, just cleared it over the top once we set it all in there. And before that, obviously, you've got to cover your paper with some kind of protection, be it Mod Podge or laminate or that clear book covering I use, because if that resin, once it starts soaking in, that will just discolour everything. But it looks like we've protected this one and we've had no issues as such. And before that resin went in, you know it's coming, bit of clear lacquer. For me, that just makes it like a finished project. Does it need it? No. One, it might help seal the wood and stop some of those bubbles appearing, but personally myself, it's just a little way I like to finish my projects off. And that's it. Super Mario recycled cardboard box. We cut it out, then we routed out the 12mm plywood, set it inside, and then covered it all with resin. And this little project is finished. Thank you very much for watching.